Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Killing Eve. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up with Eve and Villanelle. And I should have figured as much. I had my doubts. I was like, was it Pam that shot her? I was like, I don't think so. So Pam's actually the one, luckily, because she has a job dealing with bodies. I think, going to school for that and stuff like that, you probably have enough training to help even someone that's alive, aside from just someone that's dead. But I even love that Villanelle's like, let me see it. And I love that Constantine lets her see it. And it's like, see, it's disgusting. I guess because she wanted an idea of just how bad it was. It's like, it looks pretty bad. And even Eve trying to be there for her, but she's like, no, go away after everything we've been through. But I think there is a small part of her that, despite everything, was happy to know, like, oh, wow, she wanted to, like, me getting hurt wasn't just me not doing the job she sent me to do, that being killing Carolyn. It's also because of you. So obviously I think that goes into more category of, man, I dislike you, Eve. But then she finds out, oh, you shot Constantine in the hand. She's like, it's not that big of a deal. He's like, this hurt a lot. It is a big deal. So I think hearing a little bit of some of the bad stuff some of the bad that Eve's done recently, I think made her feel better about some of the bad she's done recently, because it's like, oh wow, so Eve's not on this moral high ground, because obviously Eve's done she's done some terrible stuff too, but Villanelle still kind of outweighs her in the grand scheme of things. But I think it's nice knowing, like, wow, you're just as dark as me, and maybe some of the reasons why, I don't know, you can see the smirk across Eve's face, Villanelle's face, that I think just knowing that, I'm not the only one that's kind of a screw up, that I haven't, even when trying to be good, that, Eve still struggles with that as well. So I think that made her feel better. And despite not wanting Eve there, Eve is there to support her, holding her hand and everything. It's almost like, what do you want from me, Eve? We kind of went our separate ways. I try to be a better person for you, prove to you that I could be a better person. But what did you do? You turned away from me. You spit in my face, and you didn't believe in me. And, which is interesting, because on the flip side of things, that kind of ties in a little bit with Constantine and Pam, because understanding why Pam does what she does. Because for her, it's because Constantine, it says that unlike other people before her, like, there's so many people who are more like Villanelle, who had no choice, had no other options. Pam does. She had a good enough job, and she apparently loved it too. Yet you decided to do this because I guess when you have a brother like hers who constantly tears you down, a family who seems like, in general, a mother and father that never thought much of you either, to have one person believing you so wholeheartedly, even if it was just a means to an end, maybe Pam just felt like Helen legitimately believed in her, and it made her feel like, right, someone sees me for being something special. Someone believes in me enough that I can do this. So that's what makes her want to do this, because someone believes I can. Someone believes in me in the first time, because she doesn't have a lot of she doesn't have a lot of confidence either, which, as someone who has low self-esteem, I can, obviously not to the same extent, but, as part of the lowest self-esteem club, I can understand, to some extent, Pam not having much belief in herself. So I just think it's interesting, and because I think that Villanelle wanted that belief from Eve, but she didn't. And even later on, Eve was wondering, do you think it's possible? And then, Martin was like, yeah, it might just be a way to kind of deflect from what you're really dealing with. It's just kind of like a temporary Band-Aid type of thing. So a lot of that, despite Villanelle trying to be a better person, despite her trying to change. What was it? Was it Mary and her dad, Phil? It's like they were example of people who, especially Mary, was like, oh, she's a monster, she's this and that. And it's like, no. I'm trying to be a good person, yet you accept, and I'm demonized for my flaws, but you accept this person, Phil, with all his flaws, and he's able to kind of judge me? Nah, screw that. That's not fair. That's not right. So it's like, what's the point of being good? No matter, even you good, you fail. Being good's too hard, so I think a culmination of all of that is just that Eve's just like, I don't want anything to do with you. I keep doing it. Villanelle's like, I want nothing to do with you, Eve. Tries to leave, and we get the shot in the trailer where she pulls up on that vehicle, and she's like, right, we can find Carolyn. She's part of the 12. Villanelle had her run in with Carolyn. It's like, no, Eve, I'm done with you. Leave me alone. You want to do it? Go off on your own. And Villanelle eventually gives her the address later on. It's like, fine, this is what's so important to you, Eve. It's fine. Go do that. Either because, I don't know if she, at that time, I don't think she knew that Eve and Helene had been getting very close. So, but it was just kind of like, right, she got an address and was ready to kind of do her thing. Because it was actually the person that was sent to kill her. Because you find Helene on the phone talking to Gunn later, and it's like, oh, I understand you, because it was supposed to be a kill shot, but it was Gunn that was like, because the way Constantine made it sound like, oh, it could have been worse, but made it seem like Helene wanted that to kind of be a warning shot. But no, it was meant to be a kill shot, but a person who did it was like, right, Helene wants you dead, I don't, here's the address, be ready to try. I thought that was kind of related. I guess I wasn't paying enough attention, because she ends up giving Eve the address where Carolyn and Lars are, or at least the general area, saying like, oh, they're in Berlin. But I didn't realize that what address she got until later on. I was like, oh, okay, so that's where that is. But that was already after Helene had her meeting with Carolyn, who had her talks with Lars. And for him, he kind of lays out all the terrible stuff that she's done. You try and dismantle the 12, even though you were a part of it. Then you also betrayed your own country to work with the Russians. And it's like, right, at the end of the day, Carolyn's willing to do all that because I need to know who killed my son. Was it you who ordered my son's death? And she, from the very beginning, kind of was like, no, it's not you, but I need to know who. He's like, cool, let me know who's trying to kill me. And it's like, Helene, which, maybe I missed this, and do let me know in the comments down below. I feel like she gave some vague notion, but I still think we walked away from this still not knowing what Helene was trying to do. She's trying to find the head of the serpent. She's trying to cut off the head of the snake. Who is at the top of the 12? Maybe it's just, right, kill them so I can absorb all this power and make it mine. You know, I need to cut off the snake so I can be the one bearing the crown. The new, a dragon's head, if you want to go like a Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul equivalency. I don't know if that was her end result. Like I said, she gave some vague explanation to Eve, but it didn't clarify anything, at least not to my recollection. It was still just kind of very not clear why she wanted it, because even Lars was like, I have no idea why she wants me, like what she wants from me, and it's this, to find the head of the organization, once again, for what purposes. Like I said, maybe they mentioned it in a previous episode, and I just don't remember, and I didn't quite catch it. Like I said, I remember a vague notion of why, but not a clear, concise answer as to why she wants this. We found out some interesting information, though. I love that Carolyn was just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember this place. That's where I threw up over there. And it's like, yeah, I was spinning in circles and then I threw up over there. Like the vomit just came out of me like a volcanic mountain or something like that. And you have Helene looking at her like, what? And she's like, oh, well, we got the chit-chat out of the way. I'm like, I love that that's Helene's version of chit-chatting. I love it. But it turns out the man that Carolyn's father was in love with was actually Helene's father. And it's like, I'm assuming it's the guy that Constantine was blackmailing him over. I believe that's probably the guy. And it's like, oh, my father loved your dad. And it's like, yeah. It's like, you and I are actually very similar in some regard, because the 12 have been responsible, or not the 12, but it's just, we are both people who want revenge. I think maybe that's Helene's thing, is I want revenge for the people who are responsible for killing my father for whatever reason. As she worked away and she was calm and collected, and because it is interesting that she waited till now to strike. Why not before now? Was she trying to put herself in a position where, I guess, by putting herself in good enough graces with the 12, either she at the time didn't know that maybe they were responsible for something with her dad, or maybe she was just trying to get herself in a high enough position so she can learn the names and made her way through the list. I even love Carolyn complimenting her of like, right, you do seem like you have a little bit of a foot fetish and everything, so, I mean, good on you. And Helena was almost like, yeah, thank you. That actually means a lot coming from someone like you. So they're cooperating to some extent. Eve is tracking down Carolyn, not trying to find Carolyn. But first and foremost, she goes to Helene, who's in her hotel, who's already waiting in the hotel. I was almost wondering if Helene, like that look on her face when she was laying on the bed, I was like, does she know that Villanova? And Villanova's there, I was like, oh, she's going for them Achilles heels. I was like, yikes. I actually kind of sliced that part of my leg a little bit. Like, it kind of, like, I got off of bed the wrong way, and, like, there's wood, and it just kind of, like, it cut the skin on the back of my knee, my back of, like, that part of my ankle, like, that Achilles heel area. Just, maybe not quite there, but it nicked it enough that, like, there was blood in that general area. I doubt my Achilles heel actually got severed or anything, but still, it made me think about that. But I love that Villanelle was about to do it, but like I said, I was under the impression, like, oh, she's going to know. And then, like, there's a ring at the bell. I was like, oh, someone's actually going to kill Helen before she has a chance. It's Eve. And then all the conversation comes out about, like, oh, I heard that Villanelle's alive. Oh, that the fact is, maybe we'll crawl in the bath, you kiss me and everything. And Villanelle's almost looking like, what the fuck? Then I think that's motivated her, like, you know what, screw this. Slices those Achilles heels, and it's just Eve standing there like, oh my god. And that leads to a tussle between them. It's like, right, you do this, Villanelle, there's going to be a whole bunch of consequences. Eve just kind of stands on the sidelines, kind of tosses the knife. I almost thought when she threw the knife back to Villanelle that she cut Villanelle's arm when she was almost, oh, I'm sorry. And then she goes over to kill Helen, and even Helen being like, right, make it beautiful, and laughing. It's like, wow, you were a sick puppy to the end. It's kind of sad because you're leaving her daughter all alone in the world, but Villanelle slices her throat, and then Eve's like, where are you going? She's like, just leave me alone. I'm getting away from you. This is goodbye. I'm done with you, Eve. Because I think it's like, right, you know what my relationship is like with Helen. No matter what your circumstances are, it wasn't just about getting information. It's probably like I think I'm playing Helen. There was always a back and forth, but it was almost it was a feeling of the void, because it's almost like, oh, I found this new, more interesting villain now. Yes, it was just to get to the 12, but there's some level of, you did enjoy it, though, the back and forth between the both of you. But also Villanelle's like, right, you locked me up. You had me arrested. It's like, yeah, because I thought it would make me, make things with me good. And it's like, did it? And Eve never answered the question, because I don't think it did. It didn't fix anything. It didn't make her right. It didn't make her feel good or better. So if anything, it kind of did the opposite effect. It just kind of made her realize, like, no matter how much I want to remove you from my life, you are such a big part of my life that you understand me in a way that no one else can. That's why Villanelle feels the same way about Eve. So we are two peas in a pod, but we've hurt and damaged each other so much over the years that this relationship was kind of toxic and very, very messed up to begin with. But, you know, that's what constantly draws them together, this very toxic cycle that they find themselves in. And it's just like, no, Villanelle's like, I'm done with you, Eve. There's no more. I'm finding out that you're shacking out with Helen for whatever reason. I don't care. I don't need to know. So, and even Eve feels bad because she starts drinking afterwards. So luckily Yusef pointed in the right direction, which I love that whole bit when she's talking to, like, the taxi service, and the guy's like, right, I have a moral code, so I can't give that information. My boss was like, it was a job from hell. She manipulated me, a part of her international kill squad. She screwed me over, betrayed me, and didn't pay me. And he was like, damn right, you deserve some, like, payment for that. And I love that he's like, right, I'm calling in, what was it, Fred? And he's spinning the nunchucks until Fred gets there. I guess he's putting on a performance for Eve. And Frank is like, oh, was it Fred or Frank? Either way, it's like, right, my memory's a little fuzzy, so I'm gonna, if only had something to help me remember. And Eve's like, all right, if you want to bribe, just tell me how much. Hands him some, and the other dude was like, whoa, chill, 50 is too much. And then Fred or Frank is like, 20 would be good. I'm like, what kind of bribing is that? Because I guess they do, as a whole, they do have their moral code. It's like, a little cash here and there is fine, but I'm not about to have you give me a 50. That's too much. 20 is fine. I'm like, I've never seen a bribe work like that. Like, whoa. You're going to offer me more than what's, no, half of, like, almost a little less than half of that is fine. It's like, that's wild, dude. I love that. I thought that was such a weird little bit. So we also had Carolyn and Eve confronting each other with the whole Lars situation. And Eve is just like, right, after everything we've been through, Carolyn, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to believe you. You're part of the 12. It's like, yes, I was infiltrating the group, but also it was a small group then. It wasn't the international assassin, this large-scale, world-changing organization that it was, shifting the balance of power and building the world into what they needed to be. It was like a small, like, anti-establishment group, at anarchists to some extent, but they weren't what they were before. And it's like, right, they got lost along the way. They essentially became the very thing that they disliked. It's like, right, you became, power has a way of warping people, which for Eve is like, yeah, I know. You're part of the 12. It's like, yes, I was part of the OG 12, but not this version of it. And it's like, right, if you stop interrupting me, I tell you that all of this is for Kenny. I'm this close. If you leave me alone long enough and let me do what I'm good at, I can find out who killed Kenny, you know? Because she's like, I don't believe Lars did it. He can give me the name. Just give me till evening. But Eve is like, this isn't about Kenny. I interpreted that line differently than what... Because at first I was like, is she trying to say like, oh, your reason for doing this isn't really about Kenny? Maybe trying to justify, like, making up for the past. Like, I think it's a culmination of a lot of stuff that culminates in her relationship with Kenny, and it probably, now we have context about her dad. I think all of that fuels her decision, and even more reason, like, right, things played out the way they did with my dad. I did so much, but I think it does at the end of the day mean it is all for Kenny. She wants to do right by at least one person, because what is my job if not to shake hand, make make backdoor deals, stab people in the back? Because once again, she did to someone else what happened to her father, and her dad killed himself in the process, and just like one of the people she helped Vlad blackmail ended up killing herself. So I think all those emotions about the past, your own personal history and ties and connections to all of this makes it a thing where it's like, right, I need to do right by one person. At the very least, I can do right by my son. I can get him justice. But it's like, are you really trying to get justice for him, or are you just trying to fill that hole in yourself because of all of this? So that's why I feel like there could be a double meaning to what Eve said. Either like, right, this isn't really about Kenny, that you have other reasons why you're doing this, or it's like, no, this is larger than just Kenny. This is about your need to take down his own, like, right, you're trying to get an answer, because who's to say the person who ordered Kenny's death is the same person who's at the top of it too? We have one person that's a key figure in all of this, but when the time came, Eve busted in there and killed and shot him. It's like, right, how does it feel? Shot him in that shoulderish area and then headshot. And at the end of the day, Carolyn's like, go ahead. Great. Good job, Eve. It doesn't matter. That was our last tie to figuring out who it might be at the top. 2, the fact is that he is, he's replaceable. They're just going to find someone to replace him. Unless you cut off the head of the serpent, another head's just going to grow in its place. I'm using serpent, but obviously the metaphor really should be, with Hydra, but still. So you kind of, it means nothing in the end. In fact, we're worse off because of it. But I think it's just Eve with everything with Villanelle, everything with Helen. I think it just culminated in her just being like, I'm done. Realizing how far and how out of her way she's going to get where she is. And it's like, was it even worth it in the end? At least she can put somebody down. I guess it's almost reminiscent of last season when Carolyn put Paul down instead of Constantine. So... Which, speaking of Constantine, we still have the whole angle of him and Pam. He's trying to ask Pam, like, does she really want this? She can leave at any point in time. She doesn't have to stay. Which she kind of initially, I think, took it as like, oh, you don't think I'm good at the job? You don't think I can do it? Until we find out who her first kill is. And it's like, right, once you do a kill for the 12, there's no getting away. You're in for life. You can walk away now. Especially because the person who brought you in, Helene, I'm curious if she finds out, like, oh, who's the one that did it? If she finds out that it was Eve or Villanelle, is she going to try and kill them? Like, how is Pam going to feel about that? What is Constantine going to do? She's the one that was mainly blackmailing him, but you'd assume other people in the 12 have all access to all that information. If not, that means it died with Helene, so maybe he doesn't have to worry about that. Maybe she has some contingency plans upon her death, that things will roll out upon her death. She did say there will be consequences, so the 12 will be coming after her full force. To be fair, she has nothing else to live for. It's like, Eve, who cares? My family, my brothers are out there. Maybe that could come into play, but if anything, they're just going to probably endlessly target her for this. We'll see. Because I guess Helene's the only reason why they haven't gone after Villanelle until now. Because it's like, right, I keep the wolves at bay despite your constant screwing up, so... Because I guess it also made Helene look bad too, because this is kind of as our handler and the one that kind of took her under my wing to move her up in the ranks and such. Kind of expected, I wouldn't have expected Helene to die in like this episode. I would have expected maybe the end of the season, maybe, well, series, but still. But the person Pam ends up going after, I'm blanking on her name, was it was like Francinda, was that it? Or like Francesca? It was something like that. She was Lars' significant other that he dumped the moment she started asking too many questions. And she had to be silenced because she knew too much. In fact, she's the reason why Eve ended up finding her. It's also the reason why Helene was trying to pump her for information, ended up only finding out because Eve found out from her. So, which is so sad. She was dumped, and then she was used, thinking she found a kindred spirit and friend in Eve, and then Eve just disappeared. Now she's up here working with Pam, and it's like, Pam even feels bad. It's like, oh, she's not what I thought. And Constantine's like, right. We rarely get to know what the person did because it doesn't matter. We were given orders. That's how this whole thing works. You can either walk away or you kill her. Those are only two choices you have. And Pam did it reluctantly, even though she was like, right, thank you for being nice to me, which means a lot because no one's nice to Pam. That's probably the first person that's been nice to her in a very, very long time. So, I mean, hell, when family's not even nice to you, it's sad that when strangers treat you better than family does. But Pam solidified her position. But after doing what she did, she isn't eating. Which even Constantine's like, yeah, I'd be worried if you got too comfortable with this. Which we know Villanelle did. Villanelle actually got off to all of it. But so Pam might have her issues, but she isn't quite there. It's very... Oh, God. Do I want to spoil something else? There's something else in the crime drama realm that came out... Was that still this year? Was that part of last year? It was a combination of late last year, early this year, maybe? I don't remember when it ended. Father-son duo didn't 100% meet in the middle like you thought they would. I think Pam's very much like the son in this metaphor. I don't want to represent the show because I don't know if anyone's watched it. So I don't want to spoil this thing. And because it hasn't been long enough. So I'll allude to that. If you get what I'm saying, you get what I'm saying. If you don't, it's fine. But I just think it's a situation where people weren't on the same page. And I don't think Villanelle and Pam are on the same page. Well, even more so now because Villanelle's not really all gun-ho about the killing thing. So she's in a kind of different headspace. And Pam is coming into this not really liking the killing of it. And at the very least, she's going for it. But it isn't easy for her right now. So. But ultimately, she goes... Well, it was interesting because I love that Constantine was like, right, life is miserable, so when you have a chance to like enjoy some happiness in it. So the guy that she met at that fair or festival, they end up making out big time. So once again, I hope he doesn't end up like a Sebastian. That's super possible. So interesting turn of events. I'm curious to see what happens next. Where things go for Eve, where Caroline goes next. She found a book on Lars's body. Oh, Johan / Lars's body. So it seems like she's at least got a new set of names to look into, potentially finding the one responsible for Kenny's death. Then you add on top of all of that, like I think that plays into it too with the whole Eve thing too. It's a culmination of Kenny's death, what happened to Nico, plus Bill. Like, three people you care about, like, suffered at the hands of what you got mixed in. So a combination of you plus the events of all the stuff that's happened around you, all the stuff that you've, like, surrounded yourself and drowned yourself in. So there's that. So the question is, what is Eve going to do afterwards? You have Villanelle going to Scotland, and she ends up in a place where she runs into, I'm assuming that's supposed to be Gunn. And, well, either that's Gunn, because I can't remember. I think that's supposed to be the person that... that's the person, because I don't remember the name. I don't know if it was Gunn or whether it was someone else, but I'm blanking on the name, but Constantine gave her a name to see last episode, obviously before she got shot with the arrow. So I don't know if that was Gunn or not, or maybe it's like, because the person who dropped, the moment that person gave her like, oh, here's some stuff for a headache, I was like, that's suspicious. And she kind of threw it on the ground. I was like, did you not do that because you know not to trust it or what? But she opens it up later on. There's a note from Gunn. So that I was like, I don't think that person's Gunn. They just work for Gunn. That's the person that she meets on the island who gave her that medicine beforehand for her headache. I believe that's the person that Constantine wanted her to meet last episode. Like I said, I don't think that was Gunn, but it might all be the same person. I'm just being stupid. I don't exactly remember the name off the top of my head from the end of from the name he wrote down last episode. Either way, the two of them, both assassins, tussle, get into it pretty bad. Obviously, Villanelle's not fully recovered, so but they end up falling, landing, and laughing up a storm. And then Villanelle's like, "Cool, can I stay here?" Which she kind of just looks at Villanelle, and I don't think she's probably in the process of deciding. I don't know if that's a definitive yes. Maybe, hell no, maybe. We'll have to ultimately wait and see where the next episode takes us with this. We are down to the wire, the last 2 episodes of the series coming up. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this takes us going forward into the penultimate episode. It's going to be interesting to find out what happens. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.